On week 3, you learn how to communicate through visualizations, and you learn how to use software tools such as Flourish to design effective interactive graphics. This course is intended to teach you the basics of data visualization, but our time is very limited, so I cannot teach you everything you possibly need to know about data visualization. This course is just a springboard. You need to take things to the next level on your own, taking a look at other resources. So there are several things that I would recommend you to do in case that this course has gotten you interested in data visualization and you want to learn more. So on one hand, I would recommend that you start creating your own library of data visualization. There are plenty of books about data visualization out there, many excellent readings out there that you can consult. I would like to give you my own personal recommendations of books that you can consult to keep learning in the future. First of all, I would like to refer to books that cover the visualization very broadly as a field. The main one that I would consult about that will be Andy Kirk's data visualization book, which was published, I believe, a couple of years ago. It's a great overview of data visualization for business analytics, for statistical analysis, for journalism, and so on and so forth. My own, The Truthful Art, also provides a broad overview of the world of data visualization, talking about the main principles, talking about how to think critically about data, how to represent it well, and so on and so forth. And that leads me to one very important recommendation. Remember that one of the principles that I mentioned at the beginning of the course about how to create a good graphic was use good data. So how do you assess the quality of data? Well, sometimes, very often, you will not be able to do that on your own because you need to have a domain-specific knowledge to assess the quality of data about education or about the economics, etc. But still, learning a little bit about, critical thinking about data, numeracy, quantitative thinking can take you a long way. And there are several books that helped me quite a lot in the past to develop my own sense of does this data look good or does this data look a little bit dubious? How do you develop that sense? Well, books like this can help you with that. One of my favorite ones is Naked Statistics, which is a great introduction to statistics without any formulas. One of the things that most of my students fear the most when I recommend that they learn statistics is that, oh, all these calculations involved in statistics are so complex. And sometimes they are, but they are based on principles that any human being can understand. So Naked Statistics is a great introduction to the main principle of statistics without the calculations, without the arithmetic behind those principles. A great, great book. But there are many others. For example, Bad Science, written by a medical doctor who happens to be a journalist as well, Ben Goldacre, who used to write for The Guardian, is a great introduction to critical thinking about data, particularly data that comes from the medical and pharmaceutical worlds. How Not to Be Wrong by Jordan Ellenberg is a great book about mathematical thinking. It's another recommendation. And then, if you really want to learn statistics, then you need to take your skills to the next level. You need to actually learn the formulas, right? So the books on the second row of this slide provide that understanding. These are some of my favorites. Statistics Unplugged is one of the best Stats 101 books that I have ever seen, and then all the others are also quite good. Discovering Statistics Using R, for example, is a book that is this brick of a book. It's like 1,000 pages, super long, but you don't need to read it all. You can just consult it every time that you have a question about a particular statistical method. This could be a great resource to do that. And at the same time, it also teaches you a little bit of R coding. R is a programming language that was originally designed to do statistical analysis. So learning a little bit of R in the future doesn't hurt anybody. An often overlooked branch of data visualization is mapping. It's very important to learn about maps. So here you have 3 books that I really love about mapping. And I have organized these in the order that I would read them. The first one is called How to Lie with Maps, which actually is a little bit of a misnomer because it's actually about the opposite, how to tell the truth with maps. It's a great, great book that is on its 3rd edition at the moment. The second one is sort of a Bible about maps mapping, about data mapping, thematic cartography, and geovisualization. This is a little bit geekier, and it really gets into the nitty-gritty of how to design good data maps. A great resource. And the last one, How Maps Work, is a very good overview of how the findings in cognitive science can inform the way in which we design not only maps, but also charts of different kinds. If you are into statistics, if you want to go deeper into a visualization for the statistical analysis or for scientific analysis, these are a series of books that I have read that I believe can inform that process. I have already referred to William Cleveland's The Elements of Graphing Data, but I would also like to mention Colin Ware's Information Visualization, which is considered the Bible in terms of visual perception, how visual perception can inform the way that we shape data and we design the data. R for Data Science is a great introduction to the R programming language by Hadley Wickham, who is one of the main developers behind the R programming language. And then later on you have other books that I would also recommend, such as Visualization, Analysis and Design, which I have already mentioned in this course, by Tamara Munzner. Graph Design for the Eye and Mind, written by a cognitive psychologist, Stephen Kosslyn, who used to be the head of the psychology department at Harvard University. And The Grammar of Graphics, which explains how graphics work, right? What is the grammar of graphics? What is the vocabulary and the symbols that we use in the most common kinds of charts and graphs? If you don't care that much about a statistical analysis, but you care a little bit more about business analytics, you want to use visualization to create charts to inform stakeholders or your bosses, or you need to design dashboards to summarize data, these are great books that can help you with that process. For example, Data at Work by George Camoes is a great introduction to data visualization, in particular if you use Excel. George has a website called excelcharts.com, right, which pairs really nicely with the book. Storytelling with Data is quickly becoming a bestseller. It's a very good introduction to charting for business analytics. And then all the other ones can also be quite informative. For example, Creating Better Graphs, or some of my favorites such as Information Dashboard Design by Stephen Few. So if you use tools such as Tableau or Power BI or ClickView, tools that are used to design dashboards, this could be a great resource. And the most recent one is the Big Book of Dashboards. This is actually one of my favorites in this mix because it shows you plenty of great examples of dashboards that you can get inspiration from, that you can base your own dashboards on. If you work in the worlds of journalism or news design, there are also books that can be good for you. These are just a series of them. Design for Information, for example, by Isabel May Reyes is a book that I really like. It provides a good introduction to design principles. It gives tons of examples of graphics published in different kinds of media. Then you also have the Malofie, written with a J at the end, book series. The Malofie is a competition that happens in Spain every year. Has taken place for the past 25 years or so. It's called the International Infographics Competition, and it is paired with a conference. There's also a conference associated with it that happens every year in Pamplona, Spain. Every year, the organization of the Malofie Awards publishes a book that showcases all the winners from the previous year. So this series of books is fantastic if you want to get an overview of how news visualization and infographics has changed throughout the years for the past 2 decades of history. Another quite interesting series of books is the Best American Infographics series of books. I believe that there are like 3 or 4 books in this series, and it's also a great coffee table book that you can use every now and then to get inspiration from. And finally, if you are interested in the more creative, wacky, artistic side of visualization, there are several books that you can consult as well. One of my favorites, for example, is the Book of Trees by Manuel Lima, which is a historical overview about how tree shapes have been used to visualize different kinds of data. The Atlas of Knowledge and the Atlas of Science by Cathy Borner are also very good overviews of non-wacky and wacky visualization, both sides. And then one of my personal favorites, Dear Data, It's a great book that I really recommend that you take a look at. I'm not going to get into why I believe that it's so wonderful, but if you follow my advice and get a copy of it, I believe that you are going to enjoy it a lot.